Today I am sniffing my nose, not because of a cold or any type of illness, but because I have been crying. Tears of sadness, tears of joy and relief, and then tears of just pure beauty from charity, humbleness, and just absolute love. Today you're about to be humbled by Jenna. Jenna's strength, growth, and complete and absolute kindness and desire to build a better life for her and her family and her husband. This podcast is going to be a little bit longer than my normal ones, but I promise you every single split second is worth listening to, and you're going to absolutely love it. Jenna, thank you for coming on. I've experienced multiple challenges, sufferings, losses, not just financially, but emotionally and medically as well. I don't know how you have handled it all and come out, from what I know, possibly stronger, wiser, and smarter. Would you mind sharing your story right from the beginning, from when you and your husband or partner at the time met, and how your money story started off? Because it's quite different from where it went from there.
Hi, my name's Jenna. I live in rural New South Wales with my husband and two girls. And when I first met my husband, we were both working in the ag industry, and we got together early on, and we both of us didn't have much debt or anything like that. I had an investment property, and he had a small loan for a motorbike. But other than that, we had no credit cards, no personal loans, nothing. And we, as a couple, we bought our first car together, and then we did some traveling together, and he proposed, and we started this life together that we paid for in cash. We paid for our wedding in cash, our honeymoon, our first mob of cows on a farm together, and
so everything in cash, like
everything in cash.
How did that feel at the time, knowing that you weren't incurring any debt in your life? Everything was, paid for with the money that you had in your bank account, nothing ever borrowed.
Just strong together. And we had, like this 15K emergency fund where we thought we had everything together at that point in time.
You were very much in control of your financial future. As you said, you're going from strength to strength. Talk me through what happened, because it's quite unusual for something like this to happen.
We started 2016. We thought we were on the right foot. We felt really good and confident with jobs, with our marriage, with everything like that. As newly, married couples do, you start thinking about starting your own family and things like that. And we were away in New Zealand. We decided we would start trying for a baby. And lucky for us, we fell pretty quickly at that time. But our joy was that I got some really bad news about my dad at that time, and that he was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer at that time.
Juggling just like the mix of emotions of falling pregnant and then knowing there's this immense sadness that would potentially get worse would have been torture to your heart.
Like I'm full of good news, and I want to tell my parents about what's going on with Chris and I, and share our beautiful news. And in return, they had theirs to share in a burden.
So what happened from there?
We went for our 12-week scans. Unfortunately, that pregnancy just wasn't supposed to be, and we'd lost our baby. At that time, I was so emotional. I was just an absolute mess from just the information about my dad, and then losing the pregnancy, and I was really all over the shop. I was present, but I wasn't present.
Yeah, I'm holding back the tears right now. I'm not even holding them back. They're starting to run down my face, just imagining, just dealing with, with imagining what you were going through. And I can't even imagine, how hard that would have been.
It wasn't a great experience, as well as a miscarriage and all that. There was hospital stays involved and all that sort of stuff, and just a really big process just with that loss. And then I decided at that time, with not even giving a thought to our finances or anything at that stage.
Sorry, might I just add, that is perfectly natural to park your financial worries to the side when you're dealing with an emotional trauma or crisis like that, because money is money. Like, it doesn't matter when it comes to family. And that's the right thing to do, is to park your finances to the side and just focus on what really matters right now, which is family.
Yeah. And we had this emergency fund in place, so I wasn't worried about it. Paying our bills wasn't something that was really hard for us at that time. So I wasn't even thinking long term or anything. And so I went ahead and cut back my hours, and I was working with like a grief counselor at that time, and she was really for that. And so I took a break, and it ended up being the best thing for me to process, but it also gave me heaps of leeway in terms of time that I needed, because I ended up flying back to New Zealand to spend time with my dad before he passed, and just really, make do with all the time that I could get with him, really.
Yeah. Look, I'm wiping back the tears from my face, and knowing that you stopped and took the time to invest in healing and time to invest in memories with your dad, turning the sadness, to a little bit of joy slowly. And I think that's so important for people going through tough times, is sometimes we need to just simply stop and just take check of what's going on and create the space for whatever we need to do to allow us to heal in some capacity. So it sounds like you took some either wise advice, or you just intuitively knew what you needed to do right now.
I wouldn't say it was intuitive. I'm a Christian, and I go to a beautiful church, and my pastor was like, "You probably should deal with what's going on." So she had my back, really.
Yeah. Well, she was one then that gave you great advice. So
Yeah,
thank goodness.
definitely. Definitely, it was really hard. It was such a hard process, and I didn't feel like I had the right to grieve over my loss, because you leave a hospital and you should be going home with a baby, but you don't. And yeah, it was a very bizarre experience.
Yeah,
So
no, of course. And when, just like we're not taught about money in school, we're not taught about how to deal with grief and loss and a whole other rainbow of emotions.
for
It's,
sure.
yeah,
And the fact that, like, it's a sad thing to say, but it's so common.
it
And
is, it is.
I just didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I thought, it wasn't until I started talking to friends and just people in our wider sort of community and groups that I found out, I'm nowhere near the only one in
Yeah,
our just our, group of 10 people that we might know. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So we're just, I'm working a little bit, but not as much as I was. We didn't change much of our sort of lifestyle, about like money wise, what we were doing and spending, kind of thing, with regards to the drop in my wage. And then
Yeah,
sorry.
so just to recap, so the emergency money is pretty much gone now. You're working on.
No,
Oh
no,
no, still
not
going.
yet,
Not yet.
not
But
yet.
so okay.
No.
So the emergency money has dropped a little bit to pay for flights
Yeah, it's dropped
and
a
then
little bit to pay for flights, and
and
on the
then you're
side
mm,
we have this pesky tenant that's giving us a bit of grief, and I'm just having to keep topping up the rent on our investment property,
mm,
because he's just not paying his rent on time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And you're on reduced hours, and
yeah.
you didn't go back to the budget and go, all right, because we've reduced the income, we need to kind of cut back on a few of our expenses in our budget, or even sort of look at.
In all honesty, Kenna, we didn't even have a budget at that stage.
Yeah, of course, it would have been the last thing on your mind with everything that you were going through.
Yeah, no, we were just living life per normal, basically. Like nothing had sort of changed in
Yeah.
that aspect of our finance.
Did you at any time think, oh, hang on, we're used to living kind of in a more of an abundant space where
we have this emergency savings with $15,000 normally in it, and we normally pay for everything in cash. Was there, even with all the crap that was going on in your life, was there anything that sort of a warning sign or something intuitively within you that said, oh, hang on, we need to think about the finances? Or was it just so far from your headspace at that time?
In all honesty, it was so far from my headspace at all. Chris, my husband, he, you know, numbers and looking at a budget just doesn't float his boat at all. And so,
this is, you know, your domain.
we would, yeah. His domain is, he's a farmer. That's his passion. He loves to be outdoors, and he's a blokey bloke. He'll build something out of nothing for you, or you know, fix a tractor. But
that is very sexy, might I add.
A numbers game just wasn't anything he was interested in, and. A little bit of a red flag, probably, if I look back, it's like his parents were running his accounts when I met him. That was probably something I should have looked at before we even got married, but wasn't on the radar.
Oh, that's okay. Well, luckily he's got you. Okay, so you're, you know, slowly, steadily getting through day by day, and then you fell pregnant again.
I did fell pregnant again. Yeah, we were just really joyous about what had happened. Super excited for the possibilities of that pregnancy and that baby, and it was all good. It was going really well. And then I went for our 20th ultrasound, and they highlighted a couple of things that they were a little bit worried about. Nothing with the baby, just baby was really, really small. They were a wee bit worried about why. And because I live rural, our doctors and the machinery is only as good as they've got, kind of thing. And so their primary goal is to make sure everything's okay. So they send you off to the city, they send you down to Canberra, and you go and you see a specialist down there. So off we went, thinking, you know, they're just going to be dotting their I's and crossing their T's. And we didn't know what we were kind of going into, but we were down there basically every fortnight from then till baby's birth.
Oh my goodness. And sorry, did you say the 20th?
Sorry, my 20 weeks.
Okay, sorry. I was like, wow. Yeah. Okay, so, oh my gosh, so you're on reduced hours, and now you've got the cost of traveling to Canberra every fortnight, which is expensive in itself. And then you've got all these medical expenses and bills to pay on top of this, plus accommodation and food and
my husband taking a day off work because I wouldn't go by myself.
Yeah, of course. It'd be frightening. You want, you know, your soulmate there holding your hand with you. Talk me through the next things that happen.
Next thing that happened was like our little car that we bought together right at the start when we got married. It was a clunker, apparently.
That you paid for in cash. Okay.
That we paid for in cash, and we tried fixing it and doing as much as we could, but in the end something else went on it, and it needed a whole rebuild of a new motor, and it was going to cost more than what the car was worth. So yeah, we were living out about half an hour out of town, from like any town. We were just on farm.
Yeah.
And we did that for 6 weeks, and we borrowed a vehicle when we needed to do a grocery run or we needed to do a trip to Canberra. And yeah, we just lived life for 6 weeks without any vehicle at all. Quite an isolating experience when you literally have no transport. And
wow. I bet you just, sometimes though, you're in such challenging situations, you just have to make do.
You make do. And we were both, I was working online at that stage and on farm. So, we were able to do it, but we were still working, still doing our normal day-to-day things. It was just the social aspect, coming into town to see someone wasn't there, which like, when you're a farmer, day-to-day life doesn't really change. But when you don't get to go down, have a drink at the pub or go to a footy match or something like that, and just interact with people, that can be really
social
isolating.
Engagement. Oh yeah, absolutely. Were you pregnant still at the time?
I am. I'm still pregnant at this stage.
Wow. Okay.
So no car, and then we decide we'll go buy a car. we had like no expenses really. We had like paying the mortgage on my investment property, but bar that and like the food we had to eat. When you live on farm, you pretty much get an all-round sort of package where most of your bills, your phone, internet, electricity, water, all that sort of stuff's provided for you. You know, we were okay, our income had dropped, but in terms of outgoings, we didn't have very many. On paper, we looked great to the car salesman, and so
yeah, I bet you'd look great to a car salesman. And I bet
he
sold you the
my
biggest and
husband a
best
brand
car.
new ute. And,
I feel like this was the undoing of your finances. This car salesman has a lot to answer for. I hope he never crosses my path.
Definitely.
So you buy this flashy brand new ute. I bet it felt good at the time. I bet it felt, getting in a new car and smelling that, that new car smell and driving home. I bet it felt quite euphoric, especially after, so many things you've gone through, the pair of you.
There's like your adrenaline rush when you go to pick it up. We didn't even think about a budget at that time. We just wrote down what we were earning, not about, and they knew we were on farm and what sort of, what our package was. So they knew our outgoings at that time were pretty good.
Okay, so you're driving home in this new ute, and tell me what then happens. Like, you just see like these ups and downs.
Yeah, so I go down to Canberra to have our beautiful baby daughter. And I end up spending a week there. And, it's life-changing for the both of us, just having this sort of cycle end. We've come away with a beautiful baby, and it's a joyous moment. I would say some different ideas of what we want for life and things like that. And I guess that's when things sort of start. So big life changes were made, and they probably shouldn't have been at that time.
But I think that passage into parenthood is an incredibly humbling and grounding one, because you start to really question your time, and the meaning of life becomes richer. You want to live life for longer. You want to be more present. You want to treasure every moment. You have a greater sense of appreciation and gratitude. It's the little things that suddenly mean so much more. It's such a precious, shift in your life. So everything you're saying makes perfect sense. So you've got this beautiful new baby daughter in your arms, and you're on your way back to the farm. And you had some issues then continued on with this tenant that you had in your investment property.
Yeah, so we're, living our little lives, and on the sideline, my tenant in the investment property that I had was really giving us hell. We went through mediation and we tried to rectify things, and he just wasn't paying rent. In the end, he ended up squatting basically in the house, and we couldn't legally remove him till we took him to court, and the sheriffs came and they removed him.
What
and
a nightmare.
So that was 9 months of no rent coming in, and then all the damages that were created.
I was going to ask you, did he damage the property?
Yeah, he did. A lot. So we had to do, I think, 6 loads of rubbish removal. It was a huge amount of rubbish, unreal amount of rubbish, particularly when our council does council pickup for your rubbish every week. You would think just by putting the bin out you could get rid of your rubbish, but that hadn't been happening, and so he filled rooms of the house with rubbish. He filled all the understory of the house with rubbish, the backyard. There was dead cars in the backyard. We had the fire department come and take those so they could use them for their fire training.
And obviously there was a lot of mental health issues going on for that tenant, but you get your property back. Was that when things then started to turn around again, or talk me through what happens from here?
We've got a builder in, and he's doing some repairs on it and basic stuff, and we're starting to gear up to paint it and fix it up to get it back on the market. And at the same stage, my husband comes home one day and he's like, I've had enough of working with his boss. He they'd had a bad run for a couple of weeks. They just weren't gelling. Like when you work one-on-one with some 24/7, it can deteriorate. And I just didn't realize how intentional his words were. But in a week's time, he had handed in his notice, and
they were
done. And we had to find a new job for Chris and somewhere for us to live, because when you leave a position like that on farm, you can't just stay on farm, because that's the house is usually for the next job that gets taken.
Oh my gosh! And you've got a baby girl in your arms.
Yeah, a newborn.
Oh my gosh! You had borrowed the money for the ute as well, hadn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're homeless. You owe money on a car, which is depreciating in value. The emergency savings, how are they looking?
Yeah, so they're pretty much gone at this stage. There's literally nothing left of our emergency fund, because we've used it for various things, and we now have this massive car payment. And we've been paying a mortgage on our investment property, which then turns into our primary place of residence, because we figure, we'll just move in there.
Well, I guess at least it's been fixed up by your builder. Was that, I guess, your rock bottom? And I say rock bottom, your financial rock bottom, because obviously with everything you've gone through, was that when you went, all right, this is so bad, it doesn't get any worse?
No, it's not quite my rock bottom. So we get to this stage, and like we have this side hustle. I call it a side hustle. It's farming for us. And we have a couple hundred lambs that we have been fattening on the side, as well as doing our other jobs. And so we've got this little side hustle, and if we sell that, we can settle most of our debt. Yeah, if we sell that and we get a really good price, then we should be fine, and we'll be clean. It's a clean slate for us. We can move into the house. Well, we're already in it, and we can just go back to living our little lives in this perfect bubble with our newborn baby.
All right, so tell me now what happens, because I know how tough it is for farmers. And
we had a couple hundred lambs. Everything's going fairly well, and then we noticed that we're not getting the summer rain that we normally would get. And then as the year progresses on, we don't get any rain. We don't get any rain. We have basically eaten out all our paddocks, and there's minimal grass on the place. And they declare this is the start of the drought. And our only option is that we need to buy in feed to keep these animals alive, to try and get them to the weight that we need them to be, so we can sell them and get this financial play that we have, and pay everything off. That's what we're trying to do. And by this stage, feed is about $1,000 a week at this.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it's that expensive.
Yeah, it was getting insane. We couldn't do it for very long. We tried our best to hold on to these animals, to making sure that they weren't deteriorating, and that we could try and get them through the sale at the right weight that we needed from them. Hindsight's always great and everything like that. And if we'd had a lot more in the bank or an emergency supply or fund for our farming business, then it might have been a different story. But we had to send them to sale, and it all looked good. It looked good. We sent them off, and it was just a normal sale that we've done before. And that sale in particular usually receives about 5,000 sheep at that one time. And by this stage, the drought's pretty much full on, and our whole district is suffering. Whole district is deciding to offload their animals because we just can't keep up with the feed bill.
Well, no one
can. You can't keep up when there's no rain in sight.
And everyone's doing the same thing, trying to do the best they can to survive, and obviously keep the animals, as you said, well nourished and do the right things. But then everyone gets to a certain point where they go, all right, okay, we've got to do something. So
yeah, like the only way forward if we kept them was to go more into debt. That was the only option because we didn't have the funds to do it. This was supposed to be our ticket out of debt, not more into it. So.
Exactly. So you decide, okay, all right, we're going to take the cattle and sell them, and talk me through what happens there, because this is actually your real financial rock bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it. This is our breaking point here. So at the start of the morning, we get a call that like our valuation had come in and our stock were looking pretty good. We were going to get about $195 per lamb, which was a great price for us at that time. But things deteriorated over the day. The 5,000 sheep that our sale normally sees escalated out to about 20,000 because everyone was trying to offload at the same time. Agriculture is like any market. It can be flooded or it can be, dry and things like that. And it cycles like other things in terms of different markets that you see or stocks and things like that. But when you throw drought into it, it's unprecedented. And 20,000 sheep go through that sale, and the major buyers, which are your supermarkets, had a field day. They had a great time. They could put super cheap lamb on their shelves for next to nothing, and they drove the market down like within hours. It was nothing. There was nothing left to the market. It hit rock bottom.
Did you sell all your stock?
Yeah, everything got sold. So we don't go directly to the sale. You have a buyer's agent that goes for you. And our normal buyer's agent, he would have been there, but he wasn't. He was sick. And so he sent someone else in his room. And our normal buyer's agent, it would, if he'd seen what was playing out, he would have just put them on a truck and sent them home. But this other one, he knew that we were motivated to sell, and we sold everything, and we sold it at an amazing loss. We didn't make a cent out of it. We were in debt after it. It was terrible. Yeah.
So after all of that hard work and hanging in there and trying your best, you come home with a loss.
With a major loss.
And how did your husband cope?
Yeah, so he came home, and this is the first time that I've seen him show any emotion about our finances, because he knew how bad things were getting, but he's a blokey bloke. He doesn't show emotion to you without trying to pry it out of him, He's tough. He's just going to be a strong face, and he'll just keep working as much as he can to try and get through. But at this point, he was done. He was such a broken man. He came home and he was bawling and just having to tell me what was going on, like that. We were way more in debt than we had ever been.
Oh, my goodness. How did you feel hearing this and seeing him like this?
I didn't think it was true. I honestly, because we've done this before and it's never gone like this. That's how we paid for the wedding. That's how we, how we ended up with our 15K emergency fund. We've done this multiple times, and it's always been a really amazing outcome. What we haven't done is farm during a drought. That was our big learning point for both of us.
You're now in obviously serious financial dire straits, and how are you getting by? How are you paying for food? How are you paying for utilities? How are you paying?
So we're not at this point. We've been taking over the major things, like the mortgage was still getting paid, and we were still paying the bare minimum on our utility bills and food and things like that. But we always had, in the back of our mind, once this money comes through from the sale, everything will be right, and we'll just pay everything off. So we've just been sort of sidelining everything, and we get to this point and I'm like, what do we do? Because I know what's due. I have an idea of what's due, and we literally couldn't pay any of it. And so, yeah, we were civil. We were probably fighting pretty big at this stage as well, because we were both very stressed about how do we do this? How do I even navigate it?
So knowing that you could just pay the minimum on the utilities, how did you pay for things like food? Because food in Australia is really expensive.
Yeah, and when you're out in the country, it's even more expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
We couldn't. We literally couldn't pay for food. By this stage, everything had deteriorated in our finances, and I was starting to get an idea of what a budget looked like and where things needed to go. But honestly, there was no money in the accounts, and I had to go to my pastor again, and she was like, I think there's only one option here. Like, she brought us a load of groceries. And that was wonderful, and that got us through our first week of no money for food or anything, but that wasn't sustainable long term. So she took me down to our local food hall, and here it's where goods that are near their expiry date are given to the community at a very minimal cost, and you can basically do about, I would say it's about $100 worth of groceries for about $10. And that includes meat products too. They've been able to get local butchers and things on board, and they just set you up.
That's such an important charity initiative.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So
how did you feel having to use something like this? Were you embarrassed?
I was humiliated would be the best word. I'd never been to even this part of my town, or I hadn't, how do I put it?
Well, you would never have imagined it would have ended like this. It was, as you said, you've done this. This is your party trick. This is what, as you said, you helped pay for the wedding, helped, build up your emergency money. And it's backfired. And now you're like left eating humble pie, and technically you're not even eating humble pie because there's no food. So you've got to go to a food hall. Like,
yeah,
it would have been so confronting. And
it was, yeah. And so I walked in, and you're meant to pay your $10 or whatever to do your little shop there, and I couldn't even pay that. Like, I was that in the crapper.
Yeah.
That's it. There was no money for anything. And so, my pastor, she paid my first week there. It was just a humbling experience, because it's such a generous place, and the people there, like, I'm bawling my eyes out, and the first time I go, and they're holding my hand as I go through this. They sort me out with nappies. They sort me out with fruit and veg, everything you could think of that you get in a normal shop, they had, and it was just unreal. Like,
and I imagine these are, if they're from your local district, they're probably going through their own financial challenges, from the drought themselves, and yet they're still finding a way of helping other people and banding together as a community, this is just so beautiful.
Definitely,
so precious.
Definitely.
This is what we need more of in the world.
Oh, for sure. We definitely need more of this type of charity work. Yeah, for sure. And this organization is just an amazing one. Yeah, we've gone back multiple times since and volunteered or helped out. It's just, I really honestly can't understand how we got through that process without it.
Can I ask what charity it was, just so for the listeners who want to do something and help in some way, they know, who has helped get you through this?
It's just called Young Food Hall, which is, so the town that I live in is called Young. And I think it's just a broad organization with rural communities who have, it's just called a food hall. So I'm not quite sure if it's just a one-off charity for our town, but I'm pretty sure they're located throughout lots of rural towns.
Okay, well, for anyone that wants to help after hearing this story, like a donation of any kind, whether it be food, time, or obviously a financial donation, I'm sure would always be appreciated, because I'm sure there's more droughts ahead of us and many more challenges. Okay, so a friend of yours actually gave you, I guess, a bit of a financial Bible, and that sounds like was things start to shift?
Yeah, so I had expressed our dire situation and where we were at, and she suggested I read The Barefoot Investor. That really changed our world. I learned so much about just basic finances that I wish someone had taught me at school. I don't know how we're not teaching our young people about this. But I learned how to make a budget, and I learned some wise things about, you don't ignore your bills, you ring them. If you can't pay it, you ring them.
You put your hand up and say, I'm not coping, I need help. And that then opens up the box for solutions and
that's right.
people to give you a break and to help you in some way. And the other thing that's important that you raised is, and this is what my dad always says to me, is a problem shared is a problem halved. So you've made a shift, you're getting on top of things, you're getting control again, you're bit by bit getting back. The budget's helping things, the pieces are starting to come together, and you're making all those essential phone calls to the people to ask for payment plans or just a bit of time or, some sort of discount, and you're doing your best now to get back on top of it. You're not throwing the towel in and saying, that's it, we can't do this. You're actually trying to fix it and step up to the plate, which is so admirable.
When you start writing down everything where where the money's going, you start following the trail, you work out where's your biggest leak and things like that. And it was able to tell us what we could cut. And that's what we just started doing. We had gym memberships, but with a newborn, I wasn't going, and my husband was working flat out, and so there was no time. So they had to go. There were other subscriptions that we had, and I was like, this could be paying my groceries. So they had to go. Everything had to go.
I would normally say, like, how did that feel, having to cut, your gym or this and that, and expect, to be saying sad. But I would imagine you were like, there's no time to be sad. This excess spending has just got to go. Like, there are bigger priorities in place for us to
definitely. I am a bit of a gym bunny. It was always a huge aspect of my life, having a gym membership. This is the only time I haven't ever had one, but at that time there was, like you said, there was no thought process. I was like, I can save myself $30 a week right here. So it had to go.
How does it feel seeing this shift, going, hang on, actually we're getting there is light at the tunnel, we're making progress, things are changing? Like, is there any special moments where you realized it, or
I think through this, just by acknowledging what was going on and making those calls to, our utility partners and the council, things like that, basic bills that you should be paying every week that we'd gotten behind on, and admitting what was happening. It was humiliating and so anxious to make the call, but afterwards the relief was just amazing, and that we had a plan in place and we were starting to take control of what was happening, and that made it easier to sleep at night.
I want to ask you, I know your husband said, I don't want anything to do with it, I'm busy on the farm, you take control of the finances. Have you at this point got him more involved and started talking to him and communicating to him, all right, this is our plan, this is how we're going to fix things, this is what I need you to do, and this is what I've got to do, this is what we need to be talking about, this is what we need to check in? Like, was he starting to kind of go, all right, I can't just bury my head in sand or just offload all this department of our lives onto you? Was he starting to kind of get more involved?
Yeah, so at this point, he still wasn't willing to admit what was going on. We were chatting and trying to be, gracious with each other about it, but he really had a hard time trying to come to terms with what was happening around us, even with me going to shop at the food hall.
I would imagine it would have been quite emasculating for him as well, thinking the psyche of many men's thoughts is, I'm the man, I'm the provider of the house, it's my job to, even going back to like cavemen and tribe men, their job was to go out and hunt and bring home the food, for the family to survive. It would have been emotionally crippling as well, I imagine, for him. And
Definitely, yeah. He really struggled with that. You hit the nail on the head there. He was the provider. He was the strong one. He should have been able to keep us going. And it didn't work like that. And so it took me, I would say, about 9 months to really get him on board. And then he couldn't read the book. It just, that method just didn't work for him. And so I got it on audio because he was driving trucks at this stage and working on farm. And when he was in the truck, he had plenty of time on his hands to listen to stuff.
He was working, so he was ultimately working two jobs to help fix the finances.
For sure, yeah, definitely. He was trying to do as much work as he could for his parents on farm, and then he was busting his ass driving trucks. And then at that stage, we still had our own land as well. And yeah, he was doing the equivalent, like a 60-hour week working trucks. And then any other time on that, he was doing farm work.
Oh my gosh. You know what? When people are trying to get out of a financial mess, you know, we quite often just think, well, this is all I earn, so that's all I can work with. But we forget you can get up early in the morning and work on something for a couple of hours. You can come home at nighttime and work on things while your children are asleep. You can, you know, do things on the weekends, you know, to earn some extra money. We're not defined by just one job or our 9-to-5 jobs. You know, we can have a hustle. We can have, a part-time job, a casual job, do some freelancing work. Gosh, you can be an Uber driver or put your skill set on Airtasker. I have to say personally myself, even though there are weekends where I missed out on certain things, the financial benefit that gave me in my life was definitely worth it. So I imagine it would have been hard thinking your husband's not with you for the weekends or working late until the night, you know, driving, which is obviously quite frightening as well and stressful, you know, knowing that actually this is all going to help fix our finances would have given you some comfort in knowing that you are both doing the best you can do to fix this.
For sure, yeah. He was working really hard, and that was probably my number one, you know, how do I put it, complaint that he wasn't home during that period. You know, my mum, she came and helped out a little bit at the start when my daughter was born, but she lives overseas, so she went home, and I had my in-laws, but it's not quite the same as having your partner there to help out.
Especially, you know, for a female, like I think as a female energy, you crave your family. I'm not saying your partner's family isn't great. I'm sure they are amazing, but there's something quite nurturing about returning back to your own family when you have a baby in your arms, like a newborn.
Yeah. And, you know, I worried that, you know, my daughter might be missing out on hanging out with her dad and things like that. But when they're little, they don't remember too much.
They don't remember.
Not so bad.
Tom works crazy hours. Like he leaves work at sort of 4:30, between 4:30 and 5:30 most mornings, and not quite often at 6 days a week. And he says the same thing to me. He's like, you know, I look at our daughter and I'm worried she won't recognize me, or she doesn't know who I am, or, you know, doesn't look at me the same way that she looks as everyone else. And it's more about quality rather than quantity, because there are a lot of parents who are around, but they're on their phone all the time, or they're watching television, or they're not present with their children, they're not engaged with their children. So it's, you know, when you have that time with your children, that's when you need to be present. That's when you give them every bit of your attention, every bit of your energy, every bit of your concentration and your soul and your joy, and you have, you know, even just the simplest things. And I say this is a little bit of a hypocrite because I deal with mother's guilt every day, but it's a bottomless pit. It's really a waste of energy, but we still can't help ourselves. We've got to remember it's also really healthy for our children to see us working, and obviously not as when children get older. Like when Rocco comes up to me and it's like, "Oh, can you come and do this with me?" And I have to say sometimes, "Rocco, I'm working. I really want to come and play with you, but I'm on a deadline. I've really got to get it done. And when it's done, I'll come and play with you, but it's important." So I think it's, as much as we beat ourselves up, when children reach a certain age, it's also important for them to see us working hard and to see us in doing a job that we really like and that we're really passionate about.
And for us, in the back of our minds, we would have all these late night talks about that it's only for a little while. We only need to work this hard and be this busy for a little while, and then, you know, like you say, the quality time. So we're taking more quality time to be with each other, but also as our kids get older and they're more aware, we're able to be there more and be present for them when they need us, and that meant a whole lot more. You know, we had this vision in a couple years things are gonna be way different.
Well, those couple of years have now passed, and I believe you've paid off around about $88,000 of debt over the last 3 years.
Yeah, yep, and counting as we power through our mortgage and things. Yep, but 88, it's a huge number that it was unfathomable back then.
How does it feel now looking back, everything you've achieved?
It's super exciting for us, it's a massive pat on the back that we did it. And you just, when you're in the grind, you just don't even think that far ahead, and you don't think you're going to get to that point in time. And it's huge, absolutely huge.
And you did it as a team together.
We did, yeah. We support each other. We learn a lot about each other and our relationship, and just communicating in general about how we're going, but also about our finances. And we have little team meetings every couple of weeks about what's going on and what's our goal for the next little while. And
oh my gosh. And you know what, not only did you pay the $88,000 in debt off, but you've also had rewards along the way with like a holiday overseas and upgrading the car, which I hope you did, not brand new, and other little challenges along the way. And you've now got 2 children as well. You had another baby as well in all of this. Like, wow.
Yeah, we decided we'd go back again, so we added to our family. And we didn't upgrade my car. We still have
you have
a little car. Yeah, and Chris, we had to get 2 cars eventually because my husband was working away so much. But we had to invest in that. And we bought a little coffee machine because we both love really good coffee, but if we don't buy it out in the cafe, that saves us money, little things like that.
Oh, huge. And you also mentioned, you quite often have, vegetarian-based meals as well. Like that cuts the grocery bills down significantly.
Yeah, back when there was little to no money for food and things like that, we did veggie-based meals as pretty much our predominant, and eggs as our main meals. Now we still do like basically 2 veggie meals a week. That fits in pretty easy with us, and a fish, and then chicken or meat dish. But back then there was no haircuts, no coffee out, no presents, no new clothes, no holidays, like everything went.
I bet you appreciate those things now on a phenomenal level. You must just, when you go and get a haircut or treat yourself to something, like it must be so much more meaningful and important to you.
Definitely. My poor husband got a few botched haircuts, and I just didn't cut my hair, so that was not so bad. And it's a lot easier for a female to get away with it, but man, oh man, he had some botched haircuts. So he's very appreciative now. He's back in the chair with someone that knows what they're doing. Part of us like trying to save money and things like that is we recycle our bottles and things like that just to add to the kitty, and we never ended up using any of that for our finances or our things that we wanted as a couple or anything. But for the kids, we put that in their little account. And so they, my eldest, she's 4 and she loves to go and put the bottles in the machine, and she knows she gets a little treat at the end, but she also knows that mummy and daddy are saving for something big for her, and we're slowly getting to the point where she might be able to do an odd job like stack the dishwasher or make her bed, things like that, and showing the value of how to earn money. Slowly getting the concept that she can't spend all of it. We give a little, and that could be to church, or that could be to a charity or something she really is passionate about, and then the rest goes into long-term savings. But yeah, she is only 4, so we're trying our best with that one.
Well, what other seeds are you now planting in your financial future so that you never repeat history?
I'm more the goal planner, and I love a good vision board and making long-term, short-term goals, that sort of thing.
Me too.
And we had big goals this year that we wanted to buy our own property with acreage. That was an end of year goal, but we managed to get a significant deposit ready for that. We managed to get everything lined up. It was so just fate. Everything just lined up really crazy for this one property, and we signed off on that a couple weeks ago. So yeah.
Congratulations. Oh my goodness. So you have another investment property.
This one we'll be moving into, and it will be our primary property. Yeah.
Oh, so you're forever home.
So it's our own working farm that we'll be able to have. Yeah.
So I bet you hardly ever have these sleepless nights anymore, and where you stare at the ceiling.
None at all now. None at all. We don't. It's not even phased. We through the process of learning about all our finances, I learned to put everything on autopilot. So all our bills are paid in advance. I don't even get a Telstra bill or an electricity bill. They don't even come anymore. So I don't even get bills, which is super amazing, because say anything happens in the future, knock on wood, everything is just going to keep going as it should be. And that is, we have contingency plans in place for if anything ever happened, what would happen there, and how it keeps continuing. So
you've ultimately, I guess, bulletproofed your future financial well-being. You've set the proactive steps in place, for emergency money, and
we have our house in order. We've built the stable foundation.
And going through what you've gone through, how do you now look at what financial well-being is?
I think if you'd asked me that a couple of years ago, financial well-being would have just been, your bills are paid and things are okay. And financial well-being for us now is there's no stress at all. That we can have, a little planning session once a month or whatever, and it's just about the positive things that we want to do. What goals have we got set? Is it I want to expand my business this way, or is my husband trying to save up to buy another vintage tractor? Whatever it is, it's just positive. There's nothing bad, and that is a huge sense of relief, and we're able to grow and just, I don't know, it's just a totally unreal feeling that we have.
Well, it sounds like you have a very exciting life ahead of you.
I wouldn't call it exciting when you're just buying tractors and things like that, but
Well, it may be exciting for your husband, Chris, but you've got luxury of choice, which is really important, and you've got peace of mind, and they're really valuable in your overall sense of well-being. Because I say to people, financial well-being is actually not so much about money. It's about choosing how you spend your time, having the options, choosing what your day looks like, knowing that, as you said, your financial house is in order. And because of taking responsibility and being proactive with your finances, the benefits flow into your mental health, your physical health. It flows into your career paths and what you want to do in your line of work. It benefits the family, and that you are not distracted by the stresses and anxiety of money. When you sit down at the dinner table thinking about the bills, you're listening to what your children are talking about. Even in your spiritual health, knowing that you can afford to donate money to charity or give more time to charity. These are the things that come from having your financial house in order.
With this whole COVID situation happening, we were very lucky that neither of us had any major upheavals in our work lives in that aspect, but we knew so many people around us that did, and we were able to help out in other ways. If that was, buying a coffee and giving someone time, or taking groceries to someone that didn't have any, or whatever that aspect looked like. I'm not going to sit here and toot my own horn or whatever, but like we were able to do so much that we didn't even dream that we could have done. And that's the choice that we've been given, having our financial house in order and being in overflow and in excess, that we can do this.
I started in tears, and I'm ending this podcast with a big smile, but I've actually started crying again because of you being so kind and so generous and so humble and helping the people around you. I'm like, now here comes the tears again, Canna. I'm like, so I've got
I'm sorry, I'm making you cry.
But it's so important, and to anyone that's out there, Jenna, is going through a similar challenge or feeling similar feelings to you, what would be the 3 bits of advice that you would give to them?
My first bit of advice would be to acknowledge what's going on. And that is a really hard thing to come to terms with. If you can come and write everything down that is happening, with regards to if you owe debt to whoever, or what bills need happening and what budget you've got in place, and actually come to terms with what's happening, and then make those phone calls. As soon as I did that, the peace that came over my body and my mind was immense, and that's the first part about taking control of your finances. My next one, I guess, would be side hustles. Learn about side hustles and what they are, because we've had so many different ones over the years, and they've all contributed in different ways. And just if you've got nothing left in the budget, a side hustle can make an extra payment on a bill. It could be your groceries. It could be anything.
Also, a side hustle can actually be a welcomed relief. If you're sticking to your budget and, there's no money left over for something special or nice, and whether it be like a cup of coffee or a pair of shoes, having that side hustle can be the answer to help you keep going, to balance back a bit of sanity money into your life as well.
That's right. And my side hustle predominantly while this was all happening was that I got a little cleaning job at nighttime, and it was my only time that I got away out of the house, really, because there was no extra funds for having fun or anything. So it was my own little bit of space, and I felt like I was contributing. And then lo and behold, it turned into my business that I have today.
You're kidding?
I have my own business, and I basically work in domestic help with the NDIS system.
Wow, I'm like, oh my God, you are amazing. That is incredible. Out of all this crap that you've gone through, you've launched your own business. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you're pushed and there's no other options.
Oh my gosh. Well, look, Jenna, thank you so much for taking the time to share this incredible story, and a very personal story, and I appreciate the strength that it has taken to share with us what you've gone through, particularly the first parts of your story, because that's where I guess it all began, and it's not easy. And I want to just say thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.